I guess the first question is, what kind of made you want to make this film and kind of tell Danté's story?
Yeah, it was Danté's artwork that made me want to tell the story. Uh, Long story short is my cousin, who's in the film, Molly Rayner, she moved to Richmond 10 years ago, and she was actually the one that introduced Danté to poetry. And being close to my cousin, I kind of watched him grow as an artist over the years into just this powerhouse. And having the opportunity to tell the story of one of my favorite artists at the beginning of his journey was just something that I had to do. So, I approached him 5 years ago about starting, a project around his autobiographical adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, which is the perfect framework for a film. And yeah, it started there, and it kept growing and growing until, you have what we see today.
What was kind of like the hardest part about kind of making it? And I mean, did you face any like conflicts while you were filming, or when you were like talking to him or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say the hardest part about making this film was just the proper relationship building. Like, I'm not from Richmond, so I didn't want to show up and just say to everyone, tell me your story right now. It all happened really organically. Like I was saying, my cousin introduced me to Danté. Danté and I's relationship is pretty strong, right? And he introduced me to people all around town. So I started building those relationships. And one by one, as those networks spread a little bit, you find yourself, talking to people in every corner of town and really getting to tell a representative, fair story. It's the story of a turf war. Well, we're talking to people from both sides of the tracks, but we're not just talking to the youth. We're talking to their elders. We're talking to police officers. We're talking to just about everybody to really paint the full picture.
What do you say to people who kind of still think that kind of like poetry is a very much dying art? I mean, they don't think that it's as important or that we should really be doing it.
Right.
I mean, what do you say to those people?
I think we're about to see a real renaissance of spoken word. I mean, I see it in Richmond. I see it, I'm now plugged into the spoken word community. It's life-changing for the youth that engage with it. I mean, it's the process of discovering your voice and realizing that if you shout it out, people will applaud you for it and react to it. And you learn so much about yourself and about your environment through writing and performing. I think that the poetry that's dying, it's not what I think of when I think of like Danté's and Raw Talent's spoken word poetry. I mean, this is so relevant and so energetic and like frankly very young and cool. So I think we'll see a lot of it in the near future.
I mean, do you think kind of like something like this can actually heal a community? Do you think such art can?
Absolutely.
Do that with like a community like Richmond?
In communities like Richmond, the problems that they're facing are systematic problems that took generations to get into the situation that we're currently in. I think that self-expression and communal catharsis, like they're practicing at Raw Talent, is the beginning of reversing that trend. It's the breaking of that cycle. It's taking, all these things, all these stereotypes that exist in a community and turning them on their head and using it for good and turning it into something really beautiful and powerful. So I think it's absolutely the beginning. It's the perfect core for starting a positive movement.